the first greatest musical act that's ever existed in the history of time, and it'll never change, I don't think. It's impossible. Well, I shouldn't say impossible, but it's very, very unlikely, especially considering how bad music has become over the last 20 years. If it weren't for bands such as Vampire Weekend, Cage the Elephant, the Black Keys, the Revivalists, the Arctic Monkeys, and a couple other similar bands to that, I would hate music today. It's like god awful. And you know what? I have nothing against songs such as Despacito. I like that song. I even like Gangnam Style. I like hits, but I love rock. I love rock and roll. I love good quality power pop, good quality rock and roll. Songs such as Aaliyah by Donnie Iris, to me, that is a perfect song. A song such as Ticket to Ride by the Beatles, that's a perfect song. Well, the Beatles had, almost every song they did was nearly perfect, and many of them were perfect as far as rock and roll goes. Come Together. Well, the entire Abbey Road album is near perfection. And the entire White Album might not sound like near perfection to most people, but that's probably my favorite Beatles album because it's 2 discs, number one, but because it's such an interesting album. There's so much depth and simplicity on that record that it just, Beatle fans know what I'm talking about. Rubber Soul, Revolver, even Magical Mystery Tour is a good album, but Rubber Soul and Revolver are mind-bogglingly, is that a word? Mind-boggling? Yeah, Rubber Soul and Revolver are bogglingly, see, that's not a word, but I'm going to try to say it one final time before I wrap this episode up. Rubber Soul, Revolver, and I'll just add the White Album, and I'll add Sgt. Pepper, of course, even though it slipped on the charts, and that's a bunch of bullshit. That's not my favorite Beatles album. It's never been my favorite Beatles album, but it's probably the most important album in the history of rock and roll. And no one can argue that. There are no more important albums, period, in the history of rock and roll than Sgt. Pepper, which is not my favorite Beatles album. As a matter of fact, I like Abbey Road more, and I like the White Album more. I think, in a way, I even like Revolver and Rubber Soul more. But I give 10s to all 5 of those albums. Magical Mystery Tour comes in at, I give that a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then Let It Be, I give that an 8. And then Hard Day's Night and Help, well, I give Hard Day's Night maybe an 8.5 or 9. And I give Help like half a point less than I give Hard Day's Night. And then all the other Beatle albums, even their old ones. Even the old ones were really good for that era, with the Beatles or Meet the Beatles, whatever you want to call it. Man, that was great. That was great stuff, man, back in the early 60s. Absolutely. Except the Beatles they weren't around in America in the early 60s. It was almost the mid-60s that they broke through. And it's weird when you think about it. The Beatles, in a way, their career started officially, well, not officially, but hypothetically, it started around 64. And they broke up in, actually, they were separated by 69. They had like a 5.5-year career. In essence, they really had about a 5.5 to 6 year career. They made 5 movies. They had 14 albums, changed fashion several times across the world, changed attitudes and improved attitudes across the world several times. They were a power force. They were driven without trying to go down in history. And it happened, and I don't think it can ever be topped. Not even by my second favorite band of all time, They Might Be Giants, which I know a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm some kind of dork, comparing They Might Be Giants to the Beatles. Well, you know what? They Might Be Giants have a lot of songs, well-written songs that don't sound like each other. And that was the most amazing thing about the Beatles. No 2 Beatles songs really sound like each other at all. And I can almost say the same thing about Vampire Weekend. But they're not quite as good at having every song sound completely different than the Beatles were, because the Beatles were magical. And that's how I'm going to wrap this episode up, baby. Peace, love, happiness, and happiness. I'm going to do my next video where I'm going to actually watch my video, take some notes, upload that video, and then continue moving forward, baby, as I try to get my life back, as I try to save my family and myself, especially my brother Zane, and my fiancée Julia. I miss you so much. Java, Jack, and Jet, my babies, my baby dogs. Jabba, Jack, and Jet, 3 rescues, 3 Chihuahua rescues. Only one looks like a Chihuahua. One looks like a Terrier. One looks like a Min Pin, kind of, even though he's actually part... it doesn't matter. I'm rambling now. So I got to wrap it up, babies. I'll see you next time. Don't forget, a thumbs up or a like is always appreciated. I'm on YouTube primarily, but I'll also be on the WeTube in the near future. This is Green Weaver on Alive Again 420. Peace, love, happiness, and happiness. Stay high, stay cool, stay kind, stay woke. Black Lives Matter. Ain't no joke. It's time for you, my friend, to become an anti-racist. I hope you already are an anti-racist. And if you're not, come on, it's time. The time has arrived. Let's wake up, America.